Hello and welcome. If you're watching on YouTube, you are seeing my beautiful, incredible, genius, amazing friend, Sabrina. She's sitting here with me today. And she's not sitting here with me just as a friend. She's sitting here with me as an incredible professional who helps people in so many different ways. She's a licensed therapist. She is a certified trauma specialist. And she now has officially launched her coaching career. Not just her career, the part of her business, because it's such an expanding empire that you're creating. And I really love that for you, Sabrina. You deserve it so much. I'm gonna fucking cry. Shit, I didn't even know I was gonna cry. Damn. Meeting you really changed my life. I met you when we were in Wisconsin, when we lived up there. And it was really hard for me to make friends. I was healing some really scary shit that had happened in my past, and I didn't feel safe with a lot of people. And I was really in a cocoon phase of my life where, especially telling people, like I could tell people in my business what I had been dealing with. It was much easier to share it with the world from a business aspect than it was to be personal with it, as I think many of us probably can relate to. And you came in, it was one of those situations where Trav worked with your man. So like we met each other that way. And I was like, she's fucking real. Like she is gonna tell me straight. We're gonna be able to have direct conversations. We're gonna be able to laugh. We're gonna be able to fucking joke around. And our relationship shaped my experience in Wisconsin so much. And I'm so grateful that I met you. And I'm even more grateful that you do the work that you do. I watched you bust your fucking ass when I was up there and beyond. And to know now that you no longer will ever work for someone again because you're creating your own fucking empire and you're helping people in your own way. I'm so proud of you, Sabrina. I would love for all of y'all, the listener, to welcome to the Brazen Podcast, Sabrina Bokhari. I know I'm finally saying that right. I wasn't saying it right before. Sabrina, thank you for being here. I love you so much, and I'm so grateful that you're here. Would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the waterworks. Really appreciate that. That's
Right.
always a great way to start the day, right?
Right. My eyeliner's fucking gone.
It's all good. You're still beautiful as always. Heather, thank you so much for not only allowing me to be part of such an amazing podcast, but your life. I can't echo the sentiments enough. You are an integral part of my life. You continue to be, even in the dullest of moments, you have always been the brightest light. So I completely appreciate you so much. I know that a lot of what I have done with my own self work has been based off the springboard of a lot of our conversations, a lot of the growth that you've exhibited in yourself that I've been able to witness. So it feels like twin flames type of an opportunity right now for the both of us.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Ugh, I'm
But
just so glad. What were you going to say?
I was gonna say, but thank you for making me cry because it's been a few days and sometimes it's nice to have good tears.
It is. It is. It's nice to see your face again. I haven't seen you since Wisconsin. They don't know that. We do, but they don't fucking know that. I haven't been able to see your face since Wisconsin. And it's just, it's one of those friendships like, and these are some of the ones that I cherish the most, where we don't have to be up each other's ass. You know, like that's just not who we are as women. We are very blunt. We are very direct. We're also really ambitious and very intentionally sit in as much good energy and as much, not necessarily the fucking like the spiritual bypassing that we've had several conversations about, but like choosing intentionally how you want to fucking act and how you want to speak and what you want to do, even if all around you everything's on fucking fire. And knowing the way that you help people and knowing you personally, I'm so excited for all the humans that you're going to help and the ones that you already have helped because you're really fucking good at what you do.
Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
I think it all stems from lived experiences. That's why you've been able to touch so many people and impact their lives in the way that you do because of your lived experience.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm able to share and educate others on is my own lived experience. And I like to use that same mentality of grace and kindness that I didn't give to myself for so long. Very common theme, I'm sure.
Yeah, heard.
I like being able to use that as kind of a benchmark for how people are feeling about themselves and their life. And I'm able to meet them there. And wherever there is, I'll buy a ticket for it.
Yeah. You're you're incredible. I think we should tell the listener what you do and be
Sure.
really specific because you're in a space right now where it's unlike anywhere else you're going to be for a really long time. With this launch of the new aspect of your business, with coaching being added in such a bigger way, you have openings that you will not have again. And I
Right.
think it's really important to let them know what you currently have open and see if this is a good fit for them. Because I know personally, as a coach doing the work I do, whenever I work with a client that has needs that are beyond what I am skilled in, what I am educated in, or just what I will and will not coach in, I always like to be able to refer women out. And when I do that work, when I'm like, yeah, here are some different women, some different humans that you can be in contact with to help with these different areas that are not my area of genius, but it is their area of genius, it is so important for them to feel a connection with that person because I feel like right now, what I'm hearing a lot of is it's really hard to get the support that you need for the heavier times, for the really dark times, for the trauma. I mean, like we talked about in Wisconsin, I've had difficulty finding someone to support me while I was going through all the healing with sexual abuse and the rape in childhood. Like, unless I wanted to go beyond my personal limits of my time and my energy. The money wasn't as much of an issue, which was nice, but the time and the energy, it was difficult to find. And like you said, you meet people where they are and you're willing to show up for them. So I want you all to hear this. Whoever's listening, I want you to hear what it is that Sabrina does. And I'm actually just going to read it from what you wrote. I'm going to read it from my phone. Sabrina is a licensed therapist, a coach, and a certified trauma specialist, passionate about helping people navigate mental health challenges like burnout, stress, and trauma. She focuses on creating a space for healing and growth, whether it's in therapy or through coaching. So the current offers that she has, and she will not have these for very long. Like I said, she is opening these up currently. So if you want to be a part of it, please reach out to her. We'll have all that in the show notes. What she currently has openings for is individual therapy, couples therapy, family therapy. She specializes in trauma, depression, anxiety, personality disorders, developmental disorders, abuse disorders, and eating disorders, work stress, school stress, and burnout. She works with adolescents from the age of 11 all the way up to adults at the age of 80. And she also does virtual and in person sessions. If you are in the Wisconsin area up near Green Bay or Appleton, you'll be able to work with her in person. Some big things that she does nationwide is work and school burnout, stress management, developing healthy boundaries in work, school, and life, virtual coaching, as we talked about, and individual, couple, and family. And then I wanted to touch on this too because it's super important and interesting. She does group therapy and psychoeducation, and that looks like supported meal times, psychoeducation, grounding, processing groups, and psychoeducational groups on stress management techniques for teens and burnout with those related groups as well. So basically, everything we need in America right now,
Yes.
like shit. So tell me about how you got to this space where you are offering all of this to people.
Yeah. So quick background on me. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So started working, worked my way through blue collar, white collar jobs, and really found myself often coaching people, whether it's how to advocate for themselves, how to perform a job function, very little things that impact us in our day to day. So, through my courses and becoming a therapist, a lot of my work was very much grounded in self-esteem, advocacy, understanding there is a line of delineation between who you are and who you want people to perceive you as. And
Hmm.
through that space, that's kind of where I've developed a lot of these groups, a lot of these coaching aspects, uh, landed me working in an inpatient hospital unit for all the work I kept telling myself I wanted to just do one-on-one therapy. It really blossomed into helping groups on a large and small scale because I recognized who's going to know you better than someone who's been where you are.
Dude.
And I
Yeah,
can't
it takes walking through the storm to see the storm.
exactly. And being a person who's, yes, experienced that myself, sometimes looking at me right now, I'm sure there's a perception of, well, what does she have to deal with? What struggles has she experienced? I've even heard that from some of my clients. You're so put together. How can you understand where I'm at?
Yeah.
So, having that group aspect is that affirmation of, okay, there's this person who's been where I'm at, but there's also these people who are where I'm at.
Yeah.
And that to me is so powerful because a journey in itself can be so lonely,
Hmm.
especially if it's around trauma or distress or burnout or that freeze response that I'm sure so many of us have been experiencing, where it's so overwhelming, you just don't even know what to do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what brought me to this space. I know I kind of just went into a whole long tangent,
That's
but
what we needed. That's what we wanted.
but yeah, so after leaving my inpatient work at the hospital, that's when I kind of started my smaller part of the business of working with kiddos who have eating disorders. So I started doing group therapy and individual therapy with them. I started developing some free groups in the Fox Valley area for individuals who work shifts, understanding how they can advocate for themselves and just having a safe space where they can just be.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's kind of where this is developed from. And I mean, I could talk about this till I'm blue in the face, but in reality, it's ever changing, right? I
Yeah.
always am thinking of new ways to reach out to our community. So this is just a sampling of it, but I think that what, like you said, it's a small sampling because time, obviously, there's only so much time in a day. So if the groups fill up, I'm hoping, there may be another time to expand that, but that is why some of the groups are limited at this point is just the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I also have to make sure the listener knows that right before we hopped on, I sent you a link so you could join the Brazen Sisterhood. And you're going to be joining us in there. And I'm really excited for women to connect with you in there because I am positive you're going to have at least one woman be like, bro, this is the bitch I've been looking for. I've been looking for Sabrina because you and I have I mean, we're definitely not identical. We have our own personalities, but we're very similar in a lot of ways. And a lot of how we approach our work with others, we're very blunt. We're very direct. We're very loving. It's very much a like I see us as that, what's that quote? Do no harm but take no shit type of like that's what we expect our clients to do. Like it's a space of let's not beat around the bush. Let's be let's be in a space where it is growth mindset, where we're looking for a solution. And I feel like that's a big piece of what you're going to bring to the sisterhood, of course, because you're brilliant and you're fucking awesome and I love you. But like you are so well educated in these areas and you bring the solutions and you bring the understanding that you can't focus on the problem and talk about the problem and live in the problem if you want to move on into the solution. And that's important fucking work, especially right now. Like we were talking before we pressed record about how if you live in America or literally fucking anywhere right now, it's very easy to, and I've fallen into the fucking ditch. It's very easy to be like, dude, this is a dumpster fire. this is this is wild shit. And it's important, I think, to address and not be ignorant and to be well educated. It's also important to choose what energy you want to be in. And some days, like yesterday, or not yesterday, it was last week. Like yesterday, I was in the ditch a little bit and I was like, not today, Heather. We are not going to worry about that. We don't have the space for that. But like last week, I spiraled into what's fucking happening in this world? What is happening in this country? Like, there's people that are just trying to live and be themselves, and it's turning into craziness. And the work that you do helping people be grounded and anchored and to focus on the solution, be very fucking aware of the problem, but to look for the solution, to actively take steps towards the solution. Your work is so fucking important, Sabrina.
Thank you. It's all of our work, right? And I completely understand what you're saying. I have the benefit, thankfully, of being able to have gone to school to get the education of, like you had talked about, the psychoeducation part of it, of being able to refine my life experiences, if you want to call it that. But you're right. Quite frankly, this world is a fucking dumpster fire. It's been festering for a while, and it's now very apparent. And people who are okay acknowledging that and not letting it affect them, I applaud them. But I think most people in this day and age are impacted, whether it's directly or just something that you experience by the bystander effect, right?
Right.
It's overwhelming and it's scary. And the word fairness has been brought up a lot. This is not fair. How is this fair? I didn't deserve this.
Yeah.
And that's hard for people to come to terms with, because when we talk about anxiety and how it's fear, it's always the fear of what you can't control. And recognizing that as us, as being a human, that we have limited control, and then accepting that is the most terrifying step that any human being can take.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. There's a lot of influence that we have right now that creates a space for negativity in our mind. I call it our lizard brain.
Yeah.
It's that irrational brain, right? That's that voice that's telling you, yeah, you should lean into the negativity. We'll always think the other shoe's going to drop.
Right.
Well, why would we want to think of the positive? And that's where the hard work comes in. And one of the things that I really focus on as a therapist, and that bleeds over into my coaching as well, is the fact that radical acceptance is something that is going to be an integral part of majority of the work we do. And I take an approach of solution focused.
Hmm.
And that's hard for some clients. Some clients will and have come to me and said, I'm ready to work. I'm ready for, that tangible change. And then when I present them with actions, it's that freeze response.
Yeah.
And I'm not ready for this. And that's okay. But I do want people to understand that if you're looking for a counselor, if you're looking for a coach, I'm here for that. I'm here to help you and support you. But recognizing where I vary from some other coaches or therapists is just exactly like you said. We take a very solution focused approach to it.
Yeah.
And I think it can be intimidating for people.
Yeah.
But part of that work is going back to what you said, like, okay, the world's a dumpster fire around me. Do you freeze?
Right.
Do you let the pendulum swing the opposite way and you create a whole dumpster fire in your own life so that
Right.
everything matches, right? Like the carpet matches the drape type mentality. I know I've
Yeah.
done it. I'm sure we all have,
Yeah.
but it's that middle ground. It's that acknowledging, yeah, the world is burning around me, but the capacity of my control is here. It's in this
Right.
space. But once you realize that, that is the most freeing experience that you can have.
Yeah.
And that's a hard step for a lot of people to take, but I am so excited to do that with people.
Yeah. Well, because it's such a delicate balance.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are going to be some days, like there will be days where you are a full ass human. And I know you and I have them where we're like, I'm going to get in the bath or in the shower and don't fucking talk to me because I need to cry and I need to feel these big feelings. I need to process this shit. Maybe I need to yell. Maybe I need to do other modalities, but I need to fucking move through this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that an important part of our work is acknowledging that too, like in our own ways and our own practices, like letting ourselves and letting the people that we work with understand like no emotions are good or bad. However, slash and it will never be helpful to simmer in the shit.
Mm-hmm.
It just won't be. Because that's like you said, how you create the dumpster fire in your own fucking life, in your own mind. That's how you can lead your mind down the depression, down the anxiety. You can follow down that rabbit hole. I've found myself there before many motherfucking times. Like it's just so important to identify that you have the power of choice and that you have willpower and you have a decision that you get to make every single day. And maybe some days you don't make the decision that is, oh, butterflies and rainbows and blah, 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 blah. Because that's one of the biggest things I talk about with my community is it's not all fucking rainbows and butterfly parts, bro. Like there's going to be hard motherfucking days. And that's where the work lives. The work doesn't so much live when you're having the best day of your life and you're out in the sunshine. You're like, yeah, this is amazing. Like that's not the fucking work. That's why we do the work. So you can have more of those days. But it's just so important to recognize that first of all, if the world is burning and things are falling apart, I've been a big believer. I think one of our first conversations, I went full spiritual woo woo, and you're probably like, this bitch. But like, I was like, dude, everything's falling apart, but that means that things are being rebuilt. That's
Yeah.
the only thing that this can mean. This is scary. This is a lot. Yes. Acknowledge it. Be aware of it. Look at the fucking demon right in the eyes, whatever your personal one is or whatever's setting fire around you. Be like, that's what it is. Like you said, radical acceptance. Be like, yeah, that's what's fucking happening.
Right.
But then choosing to have the belief or the knowing, then that means something better is going to be rebuilt. And I think having that person or perspective about the outer world can only really happen if you have that perspective about your inner world.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that moment vividly. And no, I did not think you were woo woo. I had kind of a weird moment. And I vaguely remember telling you about this, that I had this weird moment because we had talked about my own upbringing around, being raised Muslim, but going to a Lutheran school and,
Yeah.
that whole dichotomy and how it made me freeze in response to recognizing how spirituality and religion and morals and values, they all are very much interwoven. And there was such a moment that I had where I thought to myself, am I living? And you use this phrase so often, but in that moment I was like, oh, there's my new mantra. Thanks, Heather. Am I living authentic to my values
Right.
or what society values?
Hmm.
And it was that weird moment where like I kind of felt like I shed my skin like a weird snake, right?
Yeah.
But it was true because yeah, no, it wasn't a woo-woo moment. It was a moment of self-discovery of being accepting of the fact that we don't have to be one way or one construct or whatever it is that we have perceived in our own mind. We're ever moving, we're ever changing. And it reminds me of this one, and I don't remember if we talked about this, and I could have sworn we had. It was this weird Reddit of all things. Reddit's my Bible. Sorry. Um, it was this post, this thread about something about like stories that you have or whatever. And I don't remember the whole context. My memory is amazing.
Right,
Um,
right, right.
but basically, they were talking about how this individual had met God, and
Mhm.
God was talking to the individual, and they didn't specify religion or anything, but that the individual said, I haven't lived enough life. And God said, are you sure? Look at all the lives you have lived. And I'm sure it was some sweeping movement, but the individual then looked and it wasn't one life. What if we were all one soul living each individual person's life. And each person is us, but living a new life. And that to me, just it encapsulated that whole conversation that we had. It was the very first day that we met, and we were huddled out in the middle of that weird hut. I'll never forget that. And I
Yep.
remember looking at you and my
When we
eyelash.
weren't sober, I had had like 4 whiskeys at that point.
There may have been some libations involved. But it was like my eyelash was like, I remember like frozen shut, and I'm looking at you through one eye and I'm like, this bitch gets me.
You got me.
But it
We
was
got each other.
awesome. I mean, we got each other. And it's true though. Like,
Yeah.
that's why when you bring up spirituality and all this other stuff that I just, again, tangent,
Yeah.
it exemplifies the experiences that we have had.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Dude, that's such a beautiful piece to bring into this episode because I'm a I'm a big believer that your faith is something that you have to reevaluate or refine, or at least, like you talked about with your values, making sure that your faith aligns with what you really want to believe. And while I've built this business, and even before that, when I was helping women in different ways, I was going through such a faith crisis. My faith had been so dismantled. What I grew up believing, and I can't even say what I grew up believing because I never really believed what I was being told. I'm like, y'all are full of shit. Like, you can't be walking around talking about, spreading love and doing this and seeing thy neighbor and blah blah blah, and then your actions are fucking ass backwards to what you're saying. So like growing up, I was like, I think you're full of shit. And then I reached a point where I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. You're telling me that there's a dude in the sky, a lot like Santa Claus, who's always watching me and judging me and criticizing me. I'm like, that doesn't add up either. That shit doesn't add up. And then it hit me. I was like, bro, the only way for me to do this work is for me to believe fully and completely in my heart, know it, not just believe, take it beyond the belief, take it to a knowing. There is something bigger than me that is in control in a bigger way than I am. I get 20% of that control, give or take some percentages. Big guns upstairs gets 80%. And that all powerful, all loving energy of sort, whatever you want to call it, God, source, universe, divine, has my back. And I can trust it because it was such a difficult time to go through self-development work because the self-development work for me started a lot in childhood. I mean, we've had this discussion, but again, the listener might not know. So much court-ordered therapy because of my parents, and the divorce and the decisions they made, and becoming like wildly addicted to self-help books at such a young age, and then going through, especially in Tennessee when we moved there, like this just unveiling of a spiritual awakening that I never saw coming. It was bigger than anything I had ever had happen. And it hit me like, you're never going to go any further on this journey if you don't fucking get straight with what you believe is happening around you, above you, within you. You got to make friends and make good with the thing that's bigger than you, because every single human is you. Every single one of us are tied together. Every conversation you have means something more. And it took a lot for me to heal that, because when you go for it, felt like I was in a fucking, not to use a word that I dislike so much because I feel like it's just ugh all the time, but like being in a narcissistic relationship. Like I was in a really abusive relationship with what I was taught God is, and how he sees me or she sees me or they see me or whatever you believe. Like, and once I dismantled the bullshit that I didn't personally believe in, and I decided, no, nobody's out to get me. Nobody's watching me and judging me, and I don't have to fucking. I know I'm good. I know I'm a good human. I know I make good choices. I know I'm aligned with my values, and so does Big Guns upstairs. And so I am protected. I am guided. I am loved. And we all are. Like that was a new level. Like it was like my self-development, my healing, the therapy, the different modalities I was using, those were all wrapped up in the, honestly, I know this sounds so cheesy, but it was like this unconditional love that only could come from faith, that only could come from understanding that it's more than just we wake up, we take a shit, we go to work, we lay down. Like there's more to life than that. And I had to understand that in a deeper way than I ever had in order to be able to move forward in my personal development journey.
Yeah, that's huge. I really hope the listeners recognize how huge that is, just for yourself, and just for us to be able to see the experiences that you've lived through, that you shared with us, and how it's not only shaped who you were, but it's shaping and continues to shape who you are, but on your terms, which is huge, because who doesn't want that, right? Your
Right.
terms. I love
Yeah.
that.
I love you. I love this conversation.
Me too.
So, when it comes to the humans that you work with,
Mhm.
there's a strong possibility that one of them is listening right now. What would you tell them about that step? Because you and I both know there's a step that you take that's really sometimes scary. It takes a lot of bravery and courage to reach out and ask for help. To put your sword down, to put your shield down, to put the spikes down, to bring the wall down. It takes courage to reach out, especially as a woman, because those female wounds that we can carry, the I'm not safe with women, or I can't talk about this, we carry them from our cultures, from our families in different ways. And I personally know that you're an amazing woman, but I feel like there's something that can be told to the listener to give them reassurance and understand that they can take that step with you. What would you say to them?
Yeah. Just kind of calling back to what you were saying earlier about the fear, when we were talking about fears surrounding progress, fears surrounding taking the step, like you just said. Now the fear is not going to go away, and that's something that I want everyone to understand. Taking that first step isn't a magic wand that's going to remove the weight or the burden that you have or continue to feel. But working alongside someone like myself, or even you, Heather, or any other therapist or coach, it's recognizing the capacity in which you, as the client, feel seen, feel heard, and also feel like you can come meet with me and there's no expectation. There's no, I feel like I have to go to the dentist and get my teeth pulled type feeling, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to be the first few sessions. I'm not going to lie to anyone. If,
Yeah,
if
man.
you are scared, if you are nervous, if you feel overwhelmed, if you're like me, who's quite frankly, I've been to 8 different therapists before I found the best one.
Right.
Right? Like it's kind of going to the doctor, or trying on a pair of jeans. The first one's never going to be the best fit. If it is, hooray, but it most likely won't be. And if you are one of those people who struggled with that, or have had bad experiences with therapy because maybe it was court ordered, or because your therapist, it was not the right fit for you,
Yeah.
just know I will also be there to tell you, hey, does this feel good to you? How are you feeling right now? Is this what you were expecting?
Yeah.
And if you feel like there's no movement, or you feel like this isn't a good fit, that's where my compassion and my empathy, I hope, comes through, in recognizing, hey, let's find you someone that is a good fit. Because
Hmm.
I don't want to take your time and your energy that you're already very cautious of giving,
Right.
right? Like, I kind of feel like that stealing from you, like stealing from the rich. Well, in that situation, it's stealing from the rich and it's going nowhere. Like, I don't want to take that energy and time from a client. So
Right.
I would also say, hey, I'm so glad we're in session, but I've kind of noticed there's a wall.
Right.
Is it us? Is it, what is it that we can work through? And I want to be able to create that space for clients, and to know that the work doesn't just end when we say goodbye. I will continue to find someone for you, or to support you to bridge those gaps. I don't have a script for what it's like to work with me, because it's ever changing. And I think that's what I hope can maybe chip away at that barrier for someone who's struggling to take that first step. I'm here to help you one way or the other. And that step may be in a direction away from me, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like one of the most important aspects of coaching. I can speak to that. I can't speak to being a therapist, but at least in the coaching realm, you have to be willing and have it be part of the structure and system that you will make every session with every client personalized and customized to what they need.
Yeah.
Like there are some clients that I have worked with. I mean, there's one of my one-on-one clients right now. She cracks me the fuck up because she's like, I'm working with you because you challenge me. She point blank told me, I've been with people, I've been with therapists, I've been with counselors, I've been with coaches, and they coddle me. Actually,
Yeah.
there's two, because I just started with another one-on-one client that actually said those words too. So two clients. They're like, I don't want that. I want somebody that's going to challenge me. I want somebody that's going to say, what are your goals? Let's fucking go. You're going to have things to clean up along the way. That is for sure. So let's be committed. Actually, one of my good friends, Kendra, the ICU nurse that I was
Oh,
talking to
yeah.
about before we press record, she and I did a podcast episode earlier this week, and she had the most, she speaks in analogies and visuals, and I fucking love that because my brain is just tickled every time I talk to her. I'm like, yes, tell me more. Paint the picture. But she's like, I was telling the women I work with because they were asking me, like, what's the difference between coaching and therapy? Because her and I have worked together for several years in several different ways. And she's like, this is how I see it. And I'm paraphrasing, so please forgive me. Listener, go listen to Kendra's episode if you want to get the from her mouth, the verbatim. But she was like, I tell them that therapy is like you live in a house and your pipes are broke and you know they're broke. There's something, it's not working. It doesn't matter what you do with a band-aid. These pipes need fixing. So you go to a therapist, the therapist helps you fix the pipes. It helps what I gathered from it, it helps everything flow and move then. It helps all the processes work. She's like, when you work with a coach, it's like going to an interior designer or an architect and saying, these are my dreams. This is what I want. This is what I'm envisioning. And I know it's going to take work and I know I'm going to have to, spend time, energy, and money. I know I'm going to have to do these steps and it's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to be big, but that's what I want when I want to work with you, when I want to go there and I want to do this. And I was like, well, yes, 1,000% yes. And I feel like when you were talking, that's what I was thinking of because I was like, dude, like your ability to hold space as a therapist and as a coach, that's so much to be, and to let them bleed into each other, to be able to look at a client and say, or patient and say, listen, you're stuck here. You know, I know, we know, we're here. We're adults. Let's look at it. Let's work on this. Let's look at the pipe. Let's fix the pipe. Let's figure out the fucking pipe. And then say, and then where do you want to go? Because we don't stay talking about the pipe being broken after the pipe has already been fixed, because then the pipe might break again because you're calling that shit into your motherfucking life if you're always talking about the pipe being broken. So let's move on. And you being able to hold space for them in what I consider, from my personal experience, therapy for me has always been for maintenance. And most of the time, it's for the heavy, heavy.
Mm-hmm.
It's for the dark, heavy. It's for the I'm here and I need help. And I am not doing this on my own because it feels so big. For you to be able to do that and go into the realm of coaching where it is that forward moving, like we were talking about, it's the solution oriented, the growth mindset, the let's fucking get shit going. That is a whole process. That is such a big process for you to be able to help clients with. And that requires so much of you. So I just hope you see that. Like it's mind blowing to me what you're able to do and what you're able to hold space for, because I see how different those realms are and how much you have to have with knowledge and wisdom and life experience and capacity to be able to hold that and guide that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't have thought of a better analogy. That is so well put. And it is difficult. And one of the things that you and I have always talked about is work-life balance. And as a coach or as a therapist, there are times where we'll work less hours than we work another week because, hey, let's be honest, burnout happens on both ends and
Yeah.
we need to be able to have time and space for ourselves. So when I work with clients, one of the things that I always tell them is outside a session, if you need me, I'm here for you. And that's why I don't hold 100 clients, 35 clients a week, because I can't give what I need to then for a crisis or an emergency appointment, or if somebody has a transition that's happening, like a job offer, and they want to be able to just talk it through. I
Yeah.
want to be able to have that time and space for that. So that's why I don't hold a really high caseload, because my clients, like you said, there is a specific amount of energy that I give in one area when it comes to therapy. And then it's going to be flip flopped for when I take it to coaching. And quite frankly, I'll probably tell you, I'll hold 5 clients for life coaching.
Dude, for real. More than that is too much.
It is. It is. And that's with a consistent repertoire, a consistent conversation just about, hey, I'm moving forward. Because what happens if somebody in a life coaching aspect is saying to me, I'm in crisis? I don't want to say, oh, I don't have space to be able to help you. So
Right.
it's a really delicate balance. And I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes. And if I can give myself that room for error, I try to. Um,
Hmm.
that means that I can be the best version of myself for my clients. But if somebody is going to come to you and say, oh, I'll be your therapist and your coach, this is my disclaimer. The answer should be no, no, because we're not doing the same thing. And quite frankly, if a therapist is coaching you, there is a problem with that. And if you have a coach who is saying they are a therapist, again,
Big
there is
problem.
a problem with that. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of fine lines, but yeah, you're right. It does bleed. A lot of what you've taught me bleeds over into what I do. But I
Yeah.
think it's also important to recognize the life coach work it's systematic, it's long term. Whereas when clients come to me, I don't want to, as a therapist, I don't want you with me long term. I
Right.
will be there for you, certainly, if that is something like if somebody has a behavioral or a mood disorder, those may require long term maintenance. And I'm always there for that. But if
Right.
a client's coming to me for a therapeutic goal, right? Like with my couples who come to me, they're trying to mend a relationship or they're doing it for marriage or whatever it is, there's
Yeah.
always an end goal. So that's the other disclaimer I have is if you go into therapy and there's no goal setting and you're just kind of in therapy and you feel like nothing's changed, there's
Yeah.
also an opportunity for improvement in that avenue as well.
Yeah. Dude, I remember a conversation. I I don't want to say you intimidated me because that's not the right word. I was so inspired by you and still am. But in the conversation I'm talking about, like I think the word is respect. That is the word. But also with a healthy understanding that our work was so different. And I also very much at that moment respected your education, your background, like all of it. And I remember a conversation we had at your house, and we were discussing like I don't remember exactly the end on my end what was going on, but I was like, yeah, like I had to talk to this client about like, listen, this is outside of my realm. Like, and we talked about the differences of like where my lines are with coaching. And I was talking to you and I'm like, this bitch, I hope she looks at me at one point and is like, good. Because that was how I felt. I'm like, I would never want someone to come to me with the any type of understanding that I am their therapist. Don't ever say that word because that's not what I am. I don't have the desire. And as you know, like I went to school for early elementary special education and for child psychology. I stopped. Wasn't my game. I don't want to do that. No. Also, the schooling, hard pass. Like that. No, I was like, because at that time I was looking at the early elementary special ed, and they were like, oh, here's all the schooling, and you're going to make $12 an hour for the rest of your life. And I was like, hard fucking pass. Hard pass. But like, I remember having that conversation with you, and I actually talked to Travis about it on the way home because I was like, that meant a lot to me because I see you and saw you as such professional. And it was almost a validation piece where I was like, okay, this professional who understands their work as a therapist and in these realms of heavy therapy sees my business and my goals and my services and understands, yeah, she's doing the like it was such a validation to me because I was like, thank you for seeing that and thank you for understanding like what my mission is. Like my mission is not to pull people from the trenches. I want to be on the other side of the trenches with my hand out and with a sign like I'm at the airport being like, "Hey, you're here. You're here. Are you ready? Let's go." Like I don't have the capacity or the desire to pull people from the heavier stuff. I don't have the ability. Like as a woman that has lived the life I've lived personally, I don't have that ability. I I grew up with my dad. I grew up with blue collar construction men. I grew up with if I see somebody in a space where they're not like not in certain therapeutic spaces, of course, but like if I see somebody that just keeps spinning their wheels, me included, I'll go up to the mirror myself and be like, "What the fuck are you doing, bitch? Why are you doing this to yourself? You're hurting your own damn feelings. You're hurting your damn self." And like, I have to be able to have those conversations with my clients because that's the way I teach. And that's not for therapy. It's not what a therapist should be telling. Quite frankly, in the last few weeks, I've talked to a client because she's like, this is where I am and this is where I'm going to stay. I'm like, that's your choice. And you keep making that choice.
Yeah.
That's the choice you're making. You are affirming to me and declaring to me and claiming to me that you cannot do this, that you are stuck, that this is where you end, that this is, if that's what you want, then do it. But why are we doing this work then, baby?
Yeah.
Like you have to choose for more. You have to be willing to expand and grow and heal in different ways. And you have to be willing to do it, especially if you work with me in a way where I'm going to look at you and be like, bitch, what are you doing over there? Like, why are you doing that? Like, it's very much a friendly, very real coaching experience. And like, I just give you so much, dude. It's just so cool to me that you're able to hold both of those. And like I said, that conversation with you was so important to me.
I do remember that. And I will say to you, I'm probably way better at being a therapist than I am at being a life coach half the time because I'm a word salad Susie. I just say a lot of words sometimes and I'm like, "Yep, we're going to get to the end here eventually, Sabrina. Okay, where is that? Where are you going? You lost the track. Okay, great. Awesome." Where like with therapy like I can bring it back. I'm like, "Okay, yep, yep. Oh, cognitive dissonance. Perfect. There you go." So
Yeah.
you sell yourself short because you know how to take what people say, what their feelings are, what their motivations are, and you make such a positive and impactful statement to them about it. And meanwhile, I'm still like spinning my top, like, okay, wait, what? What dictionary word am I going to throw out? And you are able to just very much pinpoint it. And it's such a unique and spontaneous way of being able to coach people because a lot of us who are therapists, and I know other life coaches as well, we come in with a very like, I'll call it a script, right? Like we know what we want to talk about, we know what we want to say, and we know how to challenge when clients say things back to us. But even now, just like us talking, it's so organic with you and it
Yeah.
flows so freely. And I can totally see I would love to be your client, but I feel like, conflict of interest because of
Do you know how many
everything.
friends of mine are clients? Do you know how many friends I have had more than five of my close female friends be like, Heather, because I separated. I am very good with separation. If you want to, I have an
Okay,
opening.
listeners, I'm taking a spot that is designed for you, but I'm taking it. I'm just saying.
Do you appreciate that though? Because it's something that, I delve into the astrology, the human design, the gene keys. It's very interesting to me. And I think they're such incredible tools. And knowing my own, one of my pieces in human design is I, I don't want to get too deep into this because I'm not well educated enough about the systems to speak properly. So all of my human design and astrology and not genealogy, gene keys experts, forgive me, but there is certain areas of how you're made. Like you came stock with it like a car, right? And usually, let's say that we're going to just throw out the word or the number five. There's not only five of them, but let's say in a world where there's only five, you usually have these different traits and it'll come through as personality or as skill sets or as things that are very intuitive and innate within you. And that's one of the really great things about using it as a tool is you get to lean more into something you already knew about yourself, but it's a really nice validation and verification piece for you because you're like, fuck, that's why that's so easy for me. And two out of in this example, five is the bullshit caller outer. Two. I have two of those. And I cannot tell you, it's more than I understand. So many times I've been told by clients, again, the challenging, they're like, I come to you because you look at me and you cut right through the shit. You don't listen to my bullshit. You hold space for it. You hold space for it. You're like, I hear you. I see you. And also, fuck that. Like, fuck that. Why are you doing that to yourself? And again, I am so grateful. I grew up in a real roughneck type of life sometimes. Like, I mean, not as much as my brother and sister. They're way more farm kids than I am. But like, you grow up with that, and that's kind of how I coach. Like, it's just, I'm able to see through it. It's a skill set that I have, and I'm so grateful for. P.S. I'd love to do your human design and gene keys for you. Um, but that only came to full fruition because of understanding that about myself, because I thought it was a bad skill. I thought it was something I should not bring into my coaching. I was trying to fight it for so long. I was trying to fit into this mold of this coach who was super, I don't even want to say that because that's so judgmental and criticizing other coaches, but like there's a mold that can sometimes be there, especially in social media. And I didn't fit it. And I knew I didn't fit it. And I was like, I have a business. It's an online business. I'm going to be a smart fucking woman and I'm going to go on social media and I'm going to build this. But I was like, I don't fit into these cookie cutter spaces. And who wants a coach that's going to look at him and be like, I love you. I see you. I value you. And you're full of shit right now. What's that? It turns out everybody wants that. It turns out everybody wants a woman that they can come to and will give it to them straight. And I feel like you hold that too so much. Like, also, I would love again to do your human design for you.
Sign me up.
Yeah, dude.
No, yeah, you're right. And that's one of the things that I saved this. I had to write this quote down, and it's by Viktor Frankl. He's a very well-known neurologist. He's actually a Holocaust survivor, which I think in this day and age and considering present time is so important. But he actually really focused on, it's called logotherapy, which is a form of existential therapy. So if you've ever had any existential crises, read his books. Okay. And one of the
Yes,
books
please.
I'm reading right now of his is Man's Search for Meaning. Really good. It's kind of heavy, but one of the quotes that I took away from this that it's kind of tying everything that we are talking about, and I have to read it because memory, right?
Yeah.
When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And when we talked about the dumpster fire, when we talk about the no bullshit and cutting to the quick, as we'll call it, when clients come to me and they say like, oh, my life is a shit show, or I have couples that I work with that say, well, I've done these things and nothing ever seems to change. And I say, well, is it within your control? And they'll
Right.
say, well, no. And then I say, then what capacity do you have to control it? None. Then what do you have control over? Myself.
Right. Your
And
response.
your response. And that's the biggest thing, right? Like you are not in control of other people's emotions. Unfortunately, we can't read minds, we can't predict the future, but
Right.
you are in control of how you respond. And that is a scary step for people to be able to even come to terms with, right? Like, oh, it's all on me. And having a
Right.
therapist or a coach say that, like, quite frankly, it's based on how you responded. That's a hard pill for some people to swallow.
Yeah, it's a lot of accountability. It's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of self-awareness.
Yeah.
And it sucks sometimes. Like very recently, I had a situation with Trav, and it was when I was talking about, I don't know if it was before we pressed record or after, but I was so sucked into what is happening in the world and the heaviness of it. And I chose in that moment to respond. And I was being so careful with my processing, right? I was literally fucking soaking in the tub because I was like, I like my eye was twitching. I'm like, I need to get in the fucking tub. I need to, because I infuse so much spirituality and energy work. So I was like doing an energy cleanse in the tub. Like I was doing all of that. I know what works for me. So I was like, looking, let's use the toolkit. And then poor Trav came in.
Yeah.
And Trav and I have conversations. We're very open about all this stuff. And I even said at one point, I was like, I really want to be careful with how I'm speaking right now because I am in the middle of processing. I was very aware of that. I'm like, I am not past that point. I'm in it. I need you to know that. Like, I'm being a human. And so I'm like, I'm just really trying to be so calm. And once I start talking about certain aspects, especially in our political or economic climate or how people are treated, like all of it, oh, I get fired up. And not to go into the astrology of it, but I'm going to because duh, it's me. But like I know that about myself. I know I'm a fiery bitch once I am, it's all justice. I feel like Wonder Woman. I'm gonna fucking like bang bullets out of the way. Like that's how I was feeling. And none of it was happening to me in the moment I was in the gosh dang tub.
Yeah.
But I was choosing to let all of it impact me and fall on me. And then I didn't respond the way I wanted to. I raised my voice at Travis. I said things to him that were inappropriate and should have never been said. I wasn't aligned with my values. I wasn't aligned with who I wanted to be, how I wanted to respond. And then afterwards, I had to take some fucking time because he called me out on my shit, as I love that he does. And he's like, I think you need to fucking think about what you just said. And I was like, well, I think I do too. Like, fuck. And like, it's hard to do that. It's so hard to do that because all of the things usually from childhood come up. Like, that's when all of it surfaces. And that's when you feel out of sorts and you need emotional regulation. You need to remember your somatic tools. You need to remember your mindset tools. You need to remember all the tools in your toolbox. And I hope that the listener understands that being a human is not something that you and I have somehow stepped out of because of the work that we do.
Yeah.
It's something that is our daily life because, like you said, it's a big step for people to do that. And I think another very large piece of that is going from understanding the work and intellectualizing the work and being able to read about the work and listen to it on a podcast or in a book and then go into living it when it's hard to live it. It's easy to use the tools in your toolbox when you're having a good day. It's really hard when you're in the tub and you just watched fucking lot of videos and read a lot of research and paperwork about some shit that's crazy, and then your fiance comes in and you fucking are a bitch to him. That's when it's hard. And like our work, specifically your work, allows women, humans, to have what we started this whole thing with, this radical self acceptance to be like, this is where we are right now. I'm in the present moment. I am not in the past. I am not in the future. I am here. How am I going to handle this? How am I going to accept this? How am I going to move forward? And it is vital that we all, personal belief, that we all learn how to do that as quickly as fucking possible right now.
Mm.
That is so important in the world that we live in for all of us to learn how to hold our vision, maintain a focus that aligns with our values and who we want to be and what we want in the world, to be able to calm our mind, to be able to calm our body. I don't think there's ever been a time that it's been needed more than right now. So I just really thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you. No, ditto, same for you. It is a hard time that we're living in right now. And I know you and I talked about this right before I think we hit record about talking about living in line with our values and our morals. And I I always challenge my clients with this, and I hope I can challenge some of the listeners with this as well. Is really ask yourself, am I living in line with my values, or am I living based on what I think society values in
Hmm.
me?
Right.
And that's going to be, I think, a really pivotal moment for a lot of folks. And I wish we had a loudspeaker for the entire world to maybe take a step back and think about those things. But I think that's also a way to exact control, is what I value is also what I can control.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
This is such a good conversation. Will you come back?
absolutely. I would
I
love
would
to
love.
if you guys will have me.
Yes, please. I would love to have you come back several times. I think that having you come back as like a reoccurring guest sounds ideal. That sounds fucking perfect.
I love it. Sign me up.
So, one last thing I'd love to do for them, and then we'll head out. I think that giving the listener a few tangible steps or tools for their toolbox is going to be really nice. I know we've talked about so many, and they probably are like, yeah, I've heard this and this and this. But if we can kind of narrow it down for them, what are a few different things that you would tell the listener, like, have these in your toolbox? These are your tools, and here's when you use them.
Sure. I'm going to start at the bottom of the list, actually, because one of the things that I think coaches and therapists alike will agree on is, if you are going to use a tool, if you're going to use a skill, a coping mechanism, practice it when you are not in distress. Practice it when you are not in crisis. It's like being told, hey, you're going to run a marathon and be told to start tomorrow. You have
Yeah.
no conditioning, right? So that is, you take anything away from this podcast, is that please practice. And we're not practicing for perfection, we're not practicing for excellence. We are practicing so it becomes a tool that you can readily access in those moments of distress or crisis, right?
Yeah.
um, One thing that I know you talk about often in your coaching sessions, in your groups, in your retreats, in your podcast, is kindness.
Mhm.
Kindness for yourself. And one of the biggest things that I will articulate to everyone, how you talk to yourself, how you treat yourself, is how you subconsciously allow for others to talk to you and to treat you. It is your way of
Yeah.
projecting what you think you deserve. So start with that work with yourself. Challenge
Hmm.
yourself with kindness. And even then, if you're beating yourself up because you were unkind to yourself, challenge that voice that's beating you up, saying it's okay, because they're only mistakes if we don't learn from them.
Yeah. That's fucking delish. It makes me think of something that I tell clients. It's the same thing. I tell them that you design the blueprint and show other people the blueprint of how to treat you based off of how you treat you.
Yeah.
Like, it's so important. And I think I'm going to add a little bit onto that. So here's another piece to the toolbox to piggyback on it. It's really important to identify that you're with you all the time.
Yeah.
You are with you every day, all day. It's the stories that you create. It's the narratives that you create. All of it is you. You could have someone turn and look at you in a crowd, and you could choose, and you're a human, so you might be a little flustered, right? You might have to process for a second, be like, oh, no, they're not looking at me and judging me. Like, it might be a thing because you're a human, but it's a choice you make at the end of that processing to decide, are you going to believe that they are turning to look at you because they're judging you and criticizing you, and now you should make yourself small and you should go change your outfit, or you should suck your stomach in, or hot, like your thing? Or you can choose to believe, because it's all fucking a narrative that you're fucking writing, you can choose to believe, no, regardless, both of them could be true, equally true. I'm going to choose to believe they turned and looked at me because I look fucking cute as fuck today and they want to come talk to me and hang out with me. Like, it's your choice. It's actually a narrative that you are creating. And when you start to create and believe narratives that are detrimental or judgmental or criticizing or all these things that we can do as humans, you're then projecting that out and then you're expecting it to come back. Like, I work a lot with clients with the laws of the universe and understanding that end of spirituality. What you expect is what you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
What you put out energetically is what you're going to fucking get. And sometimes it comes to you as these opportunities and invitations for you to be who the fuck you said you were going to be. Like if you're climbing in self-development, you're going to have these opportunities that are testing. They're going to feel like lessons that you're learning. In those moments, be the fuck who you said you were going to be. When that
Yeah.
person turns and looks at you, make the hard decision, say the difficult thing to yourself and be like, bitch, no, we're not going back to old patterns. We're not going back to old beliefs because my external outer world is created by the inner world that I literally create. So that's what I wanted to piggyback on that. Do you have any other tools to give them before I give them a few?
The only other tool that I have in relation to what we're talking about is if you're like me, if you struggle with journaling, if you struggle with finding gratitude for yourself or for anything in the day, because again, dumpster fire, what
Right.
I've actually learned to do for myself is I created a gratitude jar. And at the end of the day, I take a sticky note, I write something down, or many things. I sometimes double up in a day of something good that happened, something that I was grateful for. And some days it's nothing. Some days I have to really search for it. But it's really cool to be able to look at the end of the month, the end of the year, to see all of that pile up, to look back on and to
Yeah.
recognize there is a lot to be grateful for.
Dude, brilliant. I love that. And it's creativity that you're infusing in it too, which is so important. Like, um, I think it was Kendra and I's podcast. We were discussing, your brain, getting to the science behind how the brain works. Your brain cannot focus on an anxious thought and creativity at the same time.
Yep.
Can't focus on a problem and a solution at the same time. So if you're sitting there and you're being creative and you're enjoying the process, like that's such a brain hack. That's such
Yeah.
a good one.
Yeah. Thank
I'm
you.
gonna say, yeah. I'm gonna pull some from our manifestation challenge that we're doing in the Brazen Sisterhood right now. Inside that challenge, we're doing a 2-month challenge where there's accountability and you're checking in. I hope you fucking pop in there and join us. I think you'd really love it. So in the challenge, there's tools in the toolkit that you guys can use, the listener. Number one is find a meditation or a meditative practice that fucking works for you. Not that works for your neighbor, not that works for your cousin, but works for you. And don't decide if it does or doesn't work until you're actually consistent with it. Don't decide something doesn't work because you tried it twice and you were in a shitty fucking mood and you barely paid it. Like, that's on you, bro. You got to get in there. And once you do it, you will see the magic that comes from being inside of those meditative practices and all of the good mind, body, and soul that can come forward. So I always have like a list of 10 or 15-minute meditations and I send them out to people. They're not even mine because I'm like, bro, I don't want to fucking make those right now. Like I'm gonna make visualizations for people. I don't want to make meditations. Here's somebody else's. Comment and give them all the glory on this. So I have all of them. Listener, please reach out. But there's two in the manifestation challenge chat in the sisterhood. And the top one, it's so perfect because if you're finding these meditative practices, I would recommend that you find one that involves your body. So they do the space where you're doing breath work in the beginning and you tense your whole body when you inhale and then you exhale and release. So I think that that's a really important part. Another tool in the toolbox going along with what you said with the gratitude, a part of the challenge is to sit in 10 minutes of gratitude every day and specifically to get creative with it. So utilizing all of your senses so you can be more present as well. So using the technique of what are 5 things I can see? And instead of just going through them, sitting with each one, being like, this for me, there's a plant right here. There's like 20 right here. So looking at that plant and being like, where did I get it? Why do I love it? What does it do for me? And like not only being present, but sitting in gratitude for every fucking thing. Things you can see in your house, things you can smell, things you can feel, and going through and becoming present and gratitude or full of gratitude. And then I'm going to use the last one from the challenge is do more fucking mirror work. Like if there is one tool in all of our toolboxes I don't think we use enough, it's to look into our own eyes and say what we want to say and be who we want to be instead of letting the fucking wheel spin while we're not talking and we're just instead disassociating off into the distance. Like go look in a mirror and tell yourself what you want to hear. Tell yourself you love you. Tell yourself you're doing a good job. For the manifestation challenge, part of the mirror work is to go on these tangents where you put yourself for about 5-ish minutes into the space of how are you going to feel the moment you get what you manifested? The moment you find out that that house is yours, the moment you find out that this opportunity is yours, what would you do in the mirror in that moment? Would you sit there and be like, holy fuck, like this happened? It happened. It's here. It was way easier than I thought it was going to be. It feels so fucking good. It's to get in that energy and build it every single day for at least a few minutes from the science end, because obviously you're creating the space for it and you're connecting with it at an energetic level. And also you are creating new neurological pathways so your brain can actually comprehend that this is fucking possible. And from a spiritual end, you are meeting the frequency of what you want and you're doing it on purpose. So I would say those 3 tools from the manifestation challenge is what I would tell the listener to do.
I love them. I
Nice.
agree. All of those are fantastic. Listeners, pick one, pick them all. I love them.
Right. All right, my dear, I love you so much. Thank you for coming on. We always end this by asking the listener to be kind to themselves and be kind to others. So which one would you like to direct them on and give them some guidance on today?
Let's try with being kind to ourselves. One of the things that I personally like to practice with kindness is I have a thing called a shitbird. It is where I take all of the negative energy of pointed at myself. Maybe I'm not talking so kind to myself, and I put it all into my bird and I throw it away. That way,
Nice.
I have space for kindness for myself.
Oh, I fucking love that. That's super good. I hope they get themselves a little shitbird. Fantastic. Um, I am sitting in a space. It happened before we jumped on this podcast where I had to maintain boundaries in a really difficult way and do it with kindness and compassion without getting triggered, without uh, people pleasing, without like all these things. So I think I'm just going to go with the energy that's here for me presently and be like, dude, if the listener, if you have a situation in your life where you can be kind to others while setting boundaries, please lean into that. I feel like boundary work with others, when I talk to clients about boundary work, we always talk about boundaries with yourself, boundaries with others, boundaries with a voice of fear in your head. And I think boundaries with others, there's a way to be kind and compassionate, and kind of going back to what we were saying too. Be kind, but take no shit.
Mm.
Don't allow yourself to be treated in a way that is outside of your standards and outside of your boundaries, and do it with love. Regardless of what's happening, you can say fuck. You can say fuck you and still be a good human that's being loving and compassionate. You can do this as the woman that you want to be, as the human that you want to be, while you live in your values and you also set the precedents for what you will and will not allow in your life. And I think that doing that for others is not only important because it helps to maintain healthy relationships, but I think it also shows others what is possible. It's an expanding moment for them if they're willing to take it, to be like, oh shit, they set a boundary. And that means I can do that too. So
Yeah,
that's what I would say.
I love that.
Yeah, man. All right. I love you. Thank you so much. Listener, thank you for being here. Sabrina, before we leave, will you tell them how they can get a hold of you? We'll have it in the show notes, but that way they can go find you real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. My website is a newleafcounselingservices.com. You can access me through there, learn more about me, and send me a contact card.
Nice. And you're on Instagram too, right? Can they
I
DM you
am on
there?
Instagram. It's a New Leaf Counseling Services.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for being here. We will see you soon.